Claude Code seems to be everywhere these days, and I've been using it a lot in my own workflows. In this video, I am going to teach you what Claude Code is, how to get started with it for beginners, how to actually build an app with it. And by the end of the video, you're going to feel comfortable to start using Claude Code for yourself, both with building apps, but you're also going to learn tips and tricks about how to use Claude Code with Claude skills, create agents, and you might even be thinking of creative ways to use Claude Code that are maybe not for writing code, but for doing other things on your computer or even brainstorming marketing, which is one of the ways that I've been using Claude Code. So I'm going to show you all of this in this video, and it's going to be comprehensive. Before we jump in, I want to give a quick plug to the Vibe Coding newsletter that I created. It is a 2-minute daily newsletter that covers all of the most important news in the AI and vibe coding space from the last day. If you want to subscribe for free, just click the link in the description. If you're watching this video, I think you'll like the newsletter a lot. Let's jump in. So here we are in the Claude Code documentation. If you don't have Claude Code yet, just search Claude Code download. You'll get to this page or a similar page, and you'll be able to download on Mac or Windows, which is the first step that you're going to need for Claude Code. So once you download Claude Code, we can open it inside a terminal, or we can open it inside an IDE like Cursor. So first I'm going to show you the terminal and then the Cursor IDE. So one way to open it inside of your terminal is to create a new folder on your computer. Here I just created a folder. We can right click and then we can say new terminal at folder. So this is going to open up a terminal window inside of that folder, and then we can give Claude Code access, or giving the AI access to that folder to create files, to do whatever it wants to do inside of that folder. All you have to do in your terminal is type Claude. If you downloaded Claude Code, it's going to basically open up a window like this. It's going to ask if you want it to give access to that usually. And then here we are inside of that folder. So now Claude has access to that folder. So right off the bat, there's a couple things I want to show you. And then after this, we're going to use Claude inside of an IDE and actually build an app. But before that, I'm going to show you some helpful things. So first, there's slash commands. So if you do a slash inside of Claude Code, you're going to be able to see some of the shortcuts that basically Claude Code has built in. And there are quite a few. I'm not going to go over all of them right now, but there's a couple that you should be aware of right off the bat. So first, let's say you want to see what model you're using. You can start searching for model and set the AI model for Claude Code. So right now I'm on Opus because I'm on the Claude Max plan, so Opus 4.5, but I can also change it easily. We can also go to the slash command type clear. This is helpful if you have a really long conversation and you want to clear conversation history and free up context. There's also compact, which will clear the conversation history, but keep a summary in context. This is helpful if you don't want to fully clear it, but you still have a really long conversation going. Agents, this is a really helpful thing that we can talk about later. Skills, I'm going to go to skills real quick so you can list available skills. So I've added a plugin skill called front-end design already. You can add more skills, and I'll show you how to do this later in the skills folder that you can add custom skills. I'm going to exit. There's plugins. Plugins are basically community driven, and you can download them into your own Claude workspace, which is really helpful. So that's a really good one to know as well. So those are a few helpful skills that you should know right off the bat. Now we're going to start building an app. But before that, I'm just going to show you how we can use Claude inside of the terminal almost as a chat. So here we can see I said hello. We got a response back. So this is kind of like using ChatGPT or Claude basically inside. They're also going to have, what's cool is like little it's going to predict what you might want to say. So let's say I was just going to use Claude Code to brainstorm. I can say, help me brainstorm a business idea around starting a pizzeria. I'm going to say, create a file in this folder with what you find. And this is what's really cool is when you're using Claude Code inside your computer and give it access to your files, it can create files and access them. And then another cool trick that I'm going to show you lots of cool tricks throughout this video. If you type UltraThink, it has a nice little rainbow design here, and that's just going to make Claude think harder. So I'm going to send off this prompt. And again, because I typed UltraThink, it's going to think harder about what it's actually doing. So this might take a little bit longer. I'm going to edit it out so you don't have to wait. And then I'm going to show you afterwards what it does and how it was able to create a file And kind of this is going to, I think, start making you think about how you might be able to use Claude Code for yourself, even for non-coding tasks. So created a draft file with style-based concepts, business model variations, etc., some questions to answer at the bottom, just some ideas basically about what we should be thinking about with the business model. So now it's asking if we want to create this file. So we can either say yes, allow all edits during the session, or no. So I'm going to say yes, allow all edits during the session. So now it's creating that file inside of our folder on our computer. Now this is important for a couple reasons. One, it is important because you need to know that this is a capability that Claude Code has, that it can actually do this, create files. But the second really helpful and important thing about this is now, let's say we leave this for a day and come back and we open up Claude in the same folder. This file is there and is going to be there as context if we want to continue working. So this is what makes kind of working with Claude like this really important. And we can also have Claude edit the files that we have in the folder that has access to. So just to show you what that looks like, I said edit the file to be more concise. It's reading it, it's going to make the edits and then update it. So there's so much that we can do with this, and it's showing us what the changes are, what it's removing, what it's adding. So this is just to show you what's possible. And in a second, we're going to jump into actually building apps with Claude Code and taking this to the next level and showing you what's possible. And here it's done. It condensed the file from 190 lines to 60 lines while keeping the key information. And this file is still in our folder on our computer. So now we're inside of Cursor. Now you could do this in a different IDE as well. This is just one that I use, but we're not going to use Cursor the way that Cursor intends us to use it, which is using their AI chat here. Instead, we're going to toggle up the panel, the terminal. I'm going to open it up more. And basically we are going to code, but also be able to easily see all the code that it's creating on the left side. But we're going to code with Claude Code and create an app. Now, to do this, we opened up Cursor in a new empty folder that I created, tutorial Claude Code. You can name this anything you want. So we're inside a folder in the terminal here. So you click this button, toggle panel, to show that terminal. This is a terminal just like the other terminal that we were in, except this is inside of Cursor. So we have more access to what the folder, basically we'll be able to see what is inside that folder. This is the folder here. It's empty. You're going to see files being added as we build. So you're going to see what I mean in a second and why this is helpful to do it inside of an IDE. Okay, so to do this, we need to type Claude. So we need to, open up Claude again. So we're going to say, yes, want to give you access. And then what we're going to do is start building an app. Now, we're going to use a special feature here, which is a really helpful trick. As I mentioned, I'm going to keep sharing these tips and tricks throughout the video. So what I'm going to do is first write the prompt, and then we're going to put Claude into plan mode. And I'm going to show you a shortcut to do that. So a simple prompt to start, I want to build an app MVP that allows me to track watering my plants. Now, I could just send this off, but the prompt isn't very detailed and we probably won't get an amazing result. But if we do a shortcut here, we're going to do Shift Tab, accept edits on, and then Shift Tab again to plan mode on. So you can see plan mode is on. Now you could also do a / command to plan before we write this prompt to go into plan mode, but it's just nice to be able to do Shift Tab to get there. So now plan mode is on. Now we could also do ultra think if we wanted to think even more, but because we have plan mode on, I'm going to not do ultra think and then send that off. So when plan mode is on, it is not going to write code. This is like basically if you've used Lovable, for example, they have discuss mode. It's kind of like that where it's plan mode. So basically it's going to chat with us to create a plan before we actually build. Now Cursor has a plan mode as well. So it's a little bit like that. This is becoming something that's common within AI coding. So it's asking us what type of app would you like to build? Web app, mobile app, desktop app, CLI, command line tool. I'm going to say web app. What core features do we want? Add, remove plants, log watering events, watering reminders, plant care info, or type something. So I'm going to say add, enter to select. So add, remove plants, log watering events. It's really cool that it built this kind of like checkboxes. I'm not going to do watering reminders now, and plant care info would be cool. And then I'll just do next. To start, we'll do local storage, no backend needed, which is simplest for the MVP. We can review our answers, and I'm going to submit the answers. And this is really cool because this came up with questions that I probably wouldn't have thought of myself. And now just off the bat, we're going to have a better MVP. So now it's going to ask me about tech stack. Do we want basically the recommended simple version for the MVP, HTML, CSS, JavaScript? Could do a component base with React or Vue. So why don't we do the recommended simple version, vanilla HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Again, plan mode is still on right now. You're going to want to stick around for later in the video to both see the result that we create and about how to use Claude skills to create agents inside of Claude Code. All right, so it created this plan of what it's going to do. So how would we like to proceed? Yes, do we want to proceed and auto accept edits? Yes, and manually approve edits, or tell Claude to change something with the plan. I'm going to say yes and auto accept edits. So now Claude says it's going to create the plant watering tracker app. It's creating the HTML structure, and then soon we're going to see files here on the left side of the files that Claude is creating. So we can see it created a file because this was a really simple version that we asked it to create. It's just one index.html file, which even that, I'm surprised it didn't split up the files into like a CSS file as well and a JavaScript file. But here we can test out the app. So this was built with Claude Code, just based on the plan. It built a simple MVP. So plant name, we could say sunflowers, and care note, water every day. I have no idea what sunflowers need, but yeah, it just created a simple little app. We can click water now, last watered, just now. We can see the history. So actually pretty cool that it was able to build this. So let's make some changes just to show you what this looks like as we kind of do even more. So first of all, it says your water tracker is ready and should be open in your browser. So that's what we did. We tested it. It's actually by default asking if we want to add reminders. But what I want to do is actually refactor the code to be a React app, because I want to show you what it looks like with more files here. And then also I'm going to say I want to improve the design. So I'll say first refactor the app so it's a React app. Also improve the design. And why don't we just go ahead and send that off? So we could have planned, but we can just send it off. Let's see how Claude Code does. I'm using Opus 4.5, which if you are using Sonnet, you might not get quite as good of results as me. But here we go. It's also going to ask questions, even if we're not in plan mode, if it needs to know. So it wants to ask how we're going to do it. Let's do invite recommended. And I can see it's also by default using the design plugin that we added before. And that's something cool about skills, is that Claude will just use skills whenever it deems it to be relevant. So it's asking if we want to remove the old file and create the project. I'm going to say yes, and don't ask again for those types of commands. And now you can see it's already setting up the node project. It added all these modules. So this is where multiple files are coming into play here. Okay, and here we opened it inside of our localhost, and it just asked us if we wanted to do this. I didn't have to be technical or understand how to do this. It just asked, do you want to open it? And then it opened a window on my computer. And already I can see this looks a lot better. It's already just a nicer design. And you can see we have all these files on the left side, which is going to be a lot more scalable, especially if we want to build more onto this. I guess for an MVP, just the HTML file is probably fine. But as you could see, it's not like this took much more work or effort to do the React version of it. So I would just recommend going React, actually, even though it's just more files, but it's going to make it more scalable in the future. Okay, so already off the bat, looks a lot better. Sunflower, water every day. We can add the plant, and there we go. Watered just now. So yeah, the design looks a lot better, and it refactored all the code. So you've built your first app with Claude Code. If you followed along, it's running locally on your computer. Now, if you wanted to, you could sync this up to GitHub and then sync the code to GitHub so that your code would be not just stored on your computer. I'm not going to go over that in this video, but just something you should be aware of, that your code isn't stuck on your computer. You can use a tool like GitHub to sync it and then even collaborate with other people on the same code. And if we want to keep building features, we could just keep chatting with Claude Code to do this. Something else that you should be aware of, just a tip with Claude Code, is you can actually open multiple terminals here and have Claude Code running in multiple terminals on the same folder. You do want to be aware that it's not going to be working on like the same feature at the same time, but just something to be aware of, that you can do that. Okay, so we went over building an app, using it in an IDE. The next thing I want to talk about is Claude skills inside of Claude Code and how that works. To demonstrate how powerful Claude Code is, I just opened up another terminal. I wrote in Claude to open up Claude, And I asked, what are Claude skills and how could it be useful to me? To show you how you can ask Claude if you're stuck or if there's anything you want to learn, Claude can actually teach it to you and even show you how to set it up inside of Claude. So let's read the answer. So right off the bat, it's saying Claude are skills defined in the skill.md file, so a markdown file with skill. It has basically metadata, name description, tool restrictions, and step-by-step guides for Claude to follow. So skills are stackable. You can use multiple skills at once, and they can be invoked anytime you're using Claude Code. So Claude automatically uses a skill when your request matches its description. You don't have to invoke it manually, but you can if you want to make sure that it uses the skill name. You can manually type /skill name to explicitly invoke it, or just write it in the chat as well, or ask what skills are available to discover them. So we currently have the front-end design skill. As I mentioned, I downloaded that from the plugin folder, but we can also create custom skills and store them in this folder. So on your folder, when you download Claude, you're going to have this Claude skills, my skill name, and skill.md, and you can store them in there. And you can download skills off the internet and store them in there as well as markdown files. You can also have Claude create skills for us. So here it's asking, would you like to try the front-end design skill or create a custom one for your workflow? So why don't we say create a custom skill for our workflow, come up with a few ideas we could create. So what's cool about Claude Code is first it's exploring the project to suggest skills that would actually be useful for the workflow. So this project is just pretty simple. It's just a simple file of an app, but curious what type of skills it's going to come up with. So it gave me some ideas for skills. I'm going to have it create a feature planner skill. I think that would be cool. So create a feature planner skill, which basically is going to have Claude automatically plan before implementing a feature that we ask for it. So I can say, yes, proceed. As you can see, it's creating the skill in the directory .claude/skill/feature planner. So that's that Claude file I was mentioning before. So you don't have to actually go to that file in your computer. Claude will have access to it already and create the skill for us. So now it's creating the skill. And then after this, I'm going to talk about the difference between skills and sub-agents. I'm going to say, yes, I want to create the skill. And remember, when it's creating this skill, a skill is something that's going to be accessible anytime we're using Claude Code, not just in this folder. Okay, it says your feature planner skill is now installed. Want to try it out? Give me a feature plan for your plant watering tracker. And then just to show you, if I type skills and I list available skills, give me a feature plan for your plant watering tracker. So I would say, I want a reminder feature. And here we can see it's using that plan skill to ask us questions about what it should include. So yeah, just off the bat, really cool way to show you what's possible. And hopefully you understand a little bit more about how skills work inside of Claude Code. Now, I'm just going to exit out. The next thing I want to show you are agents and what agents are. Agents and sub-agents are getting a little bit more advanced inside of Claude Code, but I think if you can at least understand them on a high level and understand skills and understand everything I've talked about so far in this video, you are going to be ahead of 99% of people who have just heard about Claude Code, but don't actually know how to implement it. And then you can go start using Claude Code on yourself, building things for your own use cases, and you're going to continue learning on top of it. But you're going to have the fundamental skill set to understand kind of how this all works together. So agents are specialized sub-agents that Claude can delegate to. Each agent has its own context window, a custom system prompt, and specific tools. So what's really helpful about agents is that you can call in an agent. It's going to go work on its own outside of your whole context that you've been working on. So it's going to have that context, but it's not going to continue building onto it. It's going to go work in its own basically context window, and it has its own system prompt and access to specific tools. So for example, you could create a UX reviewer agent. And that's what I'm going to do now to show you how this works, to create a sub-agent that we can call and invoke when we're working inside of Claude Code. So I'm going to create a new agent. This can be either in a specific project agent or a personal agent. So why don't we say, we'll put it inside of personal, generate with Claude or manual configuration. We're going to generate with Claude. And I'm going to say a UX designer who can help improve the UI, UX of my app. So now it's going to generate an agent from that description. And again, this is different from skills because skills are going to be invoked and used inside of your chat that you're currently working on, your terminal that you're currently working on. The agent is something that is going to be independent of that. The agent is going to be able to be running in parallel and do work and then come back and tell you the results. And then again, they're going to have their own tools and rules associated with that. So it's a little bit complicated, but hopefully that's giving you a bit of an understanding of how it works. Okay, so we can decide what tools we want to give it. We can give it all tools, read-only tools, edit tools, execution tools, or other tools. So I'm going to say read-only tools. So this agent will only be able to read and not able to actually edit or execute. Then we can decide what model it's going to be: Sonnet, Opus, Haiku, or Inherit from Parent, which is the same model as the main conversation. Why don't we say Sonnet? Choose new agent, choose a background color, choose a background color for the agent. So why don't we say yellow? And then we can read the description and system prompts. And I'm just going to hit enter. So now we have a user agent, which is great. All right, and then I can click on that agent, view agent, edit agent, delete agent, or go back. So you can always view your agents by clicking on agents and view all your agents and edit them or create new agents. So now what we're going to do is use the designer subagent to give me feedback. I'm going to show you what this looks like now. It has its own section where it's reading the files in our folder, but again, it has its own context. So you can almost think of it as an employee, like a UX designer employee that you asked to go do its own work on its own computer and then come back and give you a result. So we got our response from our UX designer agent, subagent, and we can see UX review summary. The designer identified several issues with your current app and provided detailed recommendations for the reminder feature. So it came up with basically critical priorities, major priorities of what we should do to improve it, recommended implementation order, foundation, core reminders, and polish. Would you like me to create a detailed implementation plan for the reminder feature using the feature planner skill, or start implementing phase 1? So this is where, like, as you can see, we're really like working with AI employees here as we're building. And hopefully that gives you an idea of how to start using subagents. And you could have 5 subagents. You could have them all be working in tandem, in parallel, and then get the result back for them. So that's another thing that's cool about subagents, is you can have multiple of them working at the same. After this video, if you want to go even deeper into this, I recommend going into Claude Code documentations and learning even more about how to do some of the more advanced features in Claude Code that I think are going to give you some more ideas of how to build. If you enjoyed this video, I highly recommend clicking the link in the description and subscribing to the daily Vibe Coding newsletter. It's a 2-minute newsletter that covers the latest in AI and vibe coding from the previous day. It's free to subscribe. Click the link in the description and subscribe to our YouTube channel to get even more free content like this. We're going to continue diving in to Claude Code. It's one of the most popular vibe coding tools right now, and I'm going to bring you as much education around it as I can. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.